My husband's a director at a well-known company. It's something you, a high school graduate, could never achieve in your lifetime. During a reception at a fancy restaurant, I unexpectedly ran into a classmate who insulted me for being out of place in such an establishment. She suddenly started boasting about her husband, being ignorant of who I really am. She repeatedly mocked me, calling me a loser or a failure. "Well then, I guess he's getting fired tomorrow," I said. "What?" she responded. As I was running out of patience, I turned to her and said this. I ignored her and left the place while she stood in bewilderment. Consequently, she fell from grace, ending up in a tragic state. My name is Michael Anderson, 46 years old. I run an apparel company. I took over the company at 35, succeeding the previous president, and became the CEO. Introduced by an acquaintance, I started working at my current job right after graduating high school, and my hard work was recognized by the president. Even now, I work hard every day with my employees for the company's growth. At 25, the president introduced me to a woman whom he considered a perfect match for me. I married this woman, Emily, who was an employee at the same company and 3 years younger than me. We were blessed with a child soon after marriage, and now I'm the father of a daughter who's a university student. Emily resigned from her job when she found out she was pregnant and became a full-time homemaker, focusing on housework and childcare. When I became the CEO, she returned to work as my secretary. Now, with Emily's help, I'm working hard as the CEO. I was living a busy yet fulfilling life, but a certain event would soon lead me to face a major dilemma. I was raised by my single mom. My mom managed to send me to high school, but pursuing college was out of reach due to financial issues, so I decided to work instead. In my sophomore year of high school, my mom fell and was hospitalized. Early in the morning, I worked on newspaper delivery. Additionally, I worked at a restaurant and a bar to earn a living. However, I couldn't afford to go on the school trip no matter how hard I worked. Hearing this, my classmate Sarah Johnson started mocking me. "I heard you can't even manage to afford the school trip. Isn't that just typical of a poor single-parent family like yours? Your mom's a total failure, unable to even shell out a few $100." Her words led her friends to join in, making me the butt of their jokes. I was furious about them mocking my mom, but realized arguing was pointless. I just endured in silence. Sarah was beautiful and seemed to be the daughter of a company's president, a central figure in our class. Most of the class followed her lead, so I was ridiculed by almost everyone. But even so, there was one person I could call a true friend. Sam Jackson. Sam, who talked to me when I was alone in class and even showed concern for my mom's health, was a great guy. We became friends in our sophomore year and still go out for drinks as adults. Incidentally, I got my current job at the company thanks to an introduction from Sam. If you're a friend of Sam's, you're more than welcome. Thanks to Sam, I owe a lot to where I am today. I truly can't thank him enough. One day, as I was thinking about inviting Sam for a drink, Emily, holding her smartphone, came from the adjacent secretarial office into my CEO office. "Sorry? Can I leave early today?" Thinking she might be feeling unwell, I asked, "What was wrong?" "It's not me. It's Lena. She's having trouble again. She says she's too scared to move," Emily said, looking worried. I immediately told her to go and saw her off. Even after Emily left, I couldn't settle down. The truth is, I've been troubled by something for about a week now. It's about my daughter Lena's stalker. About a month ago, while the three of us were having dinner without Lena, she came home from her part-time job, her hair disheveled and face tear-streaked. When I asked what happened, she said in a small voice, "A customer tried to force me into his car." Naturally, Lena had turned him down, but he persisted. Eventually, he waited for her until she finished her duty at the restaurant, attempting to coax her into his car. Moreover, he was a man in his 50s, older than me. Naturally, Lena had turned him down, but he persisted. Eventually, he waited for her until she finished her duty at the restaurant, attempting to coax her into his car. Hearing this, both my wife and I were horrified. We immediately made her quit her job and started picking her up from university. However, that didn't put an end to it. The stalking continued, and he started showing up at her university and places where she went with friends. Feeling that I couldn't let this man go unpunished, I discussed the situation with Lena and reported it to the police. However, they informed us that they couldn't take any action since no actual harm had been done. All right then, I'll handle it myself. However, the man seemed to be very cautious and never showed up when I was watching. In short, it ended up being a waste of time. I could pick up Lena whenever she asked, but beyond that, there was nothing else I could do for her. As a parent, I felt utterly helpless. One day, while pondering what to do, the stalker approached Lena again. Lena managed to escape quickly, but out of fear, she shut herself in her room. "I'm just so scared," she said. Hearing her anguished voice, both Emily and I felt frustrated at our inability to do anything. Realizing that this couldn't continue, I asked Sam a favor for Lena's sake. After work, I immediately called Sam to a cafe near the office. "What? What's the rush? You know I'm pretty busy too, though maybe not as much as you," Sam said. "I know that, but you're the only one I can ask." I explained to Sam that Lena was frightened by the stalker and the police were of no help. "You're my last hope, Sam. Can you please find out who this stalker it is?" I pleaded with Sam. After graduating from college, Sam had set up his PI agency. Hoping that a professional could uncover the stalker's identity, I turned to Sam. Initially joking, Sam's expression changed when he heard about Lena's situation. "If it's for Lena, I've got to do it. Leave it to me. I'll find out everything as quickly as possible." Relieved by Sam's reassuring words, I explained to him about Lena's university and the nearest station. Just then, a familiar voice said, "Isn't that Sam and the poor guy?" Turning around, there stood my classmate, Sarah Johnson. Though she had aged, her beauty was unmistakable, so I recognized her instantly but pretended not to. "Miss Johnson." "Hey, don't call me by my maiden name. I'm now Sarah Pendragon. It's an uncommon family name, isn't it?" "Pendragon? That's quite uncommon. I think I only know one person with it," I responded casually. Sarah looked back and forth between me and Sam and sneered, "You two still make such a bland duo. You fit better in a diner than this stylish cafe. It's out of place for you. Why don't you move to another shop?" She mocked us. Even after so many years, her fundamental character hadn't changed, I thought. "We're having an important conversation. If you have no business with us, could you please leave?" Sam glared sharply at Sarah, who turned red with anger and left, returning to a young man who seemed to be her companion. After that, Sam and I discussed Lena's situation in detail before leaving the cafe. A week later, Sam told me he had something to discuss, so we met again at the cafe. "I want you to look at this." The moment I saw the document Sam handed me, I was so shocked my eyes nearly popped out. "I can't believe such a coincidence," I said. "I was surprised too," Sam replied. "Not just me, but everyone else seemed surprised as well. But with this much evidence, we can act. Let's get moving." Just as I was about to say something, Sam said, "Can you give me just 2 or 3 more days?" He wanted me to wait before taking action. Thinking of Lena, I honestly wanted to end this as soon as possible. Even now, Lena is struggling to leave the house, and I've been forcing her to go to university just to catch the perpetrator. But there might be a reason why Sam is asking this. With that thought, I reluctantly nodded in agreement. The next day, after learning the shocking truth, I went to a high-end restaurant for a business dinner. As I stood up to go to the restroom, there she was again, Sarah Johnson, exclaiming, "What is a poor guy like you doing in a place like this?" Even more out of place than at the cafe. While thinking how unlucky I was to run into her, I told her I was here for work. To which she replied, "For work? That's a lie. There's no way a high school grad from the bottom can have a decent job. You must be working in some insignificant factory, right?" She mocked me without even knowing my job, just making assumptions. "Actually, I happen to be a CEO," I retorted, angered by her condescension. "A high school graduate as a CEO. Even if it's true, it must be some tiny company with 1 or 2 employees." "That's not a real company," she scoffed. Still, Sarah didn't stop mocking me. Growing increasingly annoyed, I was about to dismiss her when she suddenly started boasting. "My husband is a director at a well-known company. That's something you, a high school graduate, could never achieve in your lifetime." She proudly spoke of her husband, the sales director at a well-known apparel brand. Comparing her husband to me, she kept calling me a loser and a failure, continuously mocking me. I was running out of patience. Well then, I guess he's getting fired tomorrow, I said. After that, I left a bewildered Sarah Johnson behind and walked away. After finishing the dinner successfully, I returned home. I arrived home before 9 o'clock, but the kids had already gone to their rooms, leaving only Emily in the living room. Welcome back. You must be tired after being out so late. Did the dinner go well? Emily's caring words prompted me to ask about Lena. Her face clouded over in an instant. It seems it didn't work out. She cried today, wanting to quit university, she said. I see. Don't worry, her agony will all end tomorrow, I assured her. My words made Emily look puzzled. I then told her, actually, and proceeded to share my plan with her. I hadn't told Emily about consulting Sam about Lena, so she was surprised. I was wondering why you, usually so kind, were forcing Lena to go to school. But now I understand. I wish you had told me. I could have helped, she said, relieved to hear my plan. Emily agreed. I hadn't disclosed it to her until now as I wanted to keep things confidential. Actually, I have a favor to ask you, Emily. As soon as I made the request, Emily agreed without hesitation. Leave it to me. I have a wide network. I'll arrange everything today, she said. After saying that, she left for the bedroom with her smartphone. As for me, I prepared for tomorrow, took a bath, and rested. The next day, I found myself engrossed in urgent work at the secretarial office. I had a specific purpose for being there. As I made good progress, the CEO's office started getting a bit noisy. The CEO will be back soon. Please wait a little longer, I heard Emily's voice, but then a man's voice interjected. No need to worry. I was surprised when you called yesterday to think the CEO himself has something to discuss with me and my wife. The day before, I had asked Emily to invite the sales director and his wife. I asked Emily, my secretary, to contact them. Considering Emily's wide network of contacts, she quickly succeeded in inviting them here today. When Emily left the room to prepare, the sales director and his wife were left alone in the CEO's office. Listening in, I heard the wife excitedly speculating. It might be about a promotion. Called in as a couple, maybe it's for a vice president position. If he becomes a VP, the retirement package would be something to look forward to, she said. The sales director seemed pleased as well, both unaware of what was about to happen. Chatting animatedly, I nearly laughed at their carefree conversation but composed myself and opened the door to the CEO's office. Mr. CEO, how are you? The sales director greeted. Hello there, Sarah, I said. She had stood up following her husband and froze the moment she saw my face. She must have never imagined a classmate she ridiculed for being a high school graduate would turn out to be her husband's boss. As Sarah's mouth opened and closed wordlessly, I said, nice to see you again since yesterday. The unsuspecting sales director then asked her if she knew me. Nope. Well, stammering, Sarah struggled to answer. We're high school classmates, I interjected, and the sales director's face brightened. But I must say, my memories with her are nothing but unpleasant. My sarcastic remark instantly turned the atmosphere in the room. I see, the sales director said, and it felt like hell until Emily returned with the tea. After being mocked by his wife the other day, I declared that I would fire her husband, so I called them in today. Reacting quickly to my words, the sales director began to scold Sarah. Did you really say that? And to mock the CEO? What were you thinking? But I didn't expect a high school graduate to be a CEO, Sarah tried to justify. Even when the sales director told her to apologize, she showed no sign of doing so. I deeply apologize for my wife's grave disrespect, but to be fired over just this incident, could you please reconsider? Desperate to keep his position, the sales director repeatedly apologized, but Sarah seemed indifferent to his apologies. It appears your wife is not at all remorseful, I pointed out to the sales director. Sarah worded angrily, why should a high school dropout like you be a CEO? It's your fault for not saying it, and firing over something like this is wrongful dismissal. The sales director hardly tried to silence her, but it was too late. I decided to explain to Sarah how I became the CEO. I joined this company right after graduating high school, and I'm the CEO where Sarah's husband is the sales director. Moreover, my best friend Sam is the nephew of the former president, and their fathers are brothers. Initially, I was hired because I was the friend of the president's nephew. Later, at the age of 30, I took over the company from the former president and became the CEO. There were doubts about whether I could lead 9,000 employees, but the sense of responsibility was greater. After 5 years of training, I took the CEO position. That's how I became the CEO. Sarah responded, I had no idea about such a background, but to be fired for something like this. Although Sarah's face turned pale, she still didn't utter a word of apology. It's not just for this reason that you're being fired. I'll explain the proper reasons now. After saying that, I called out to Emily to bring in a certain person from the secretarial office. As Emily signaled, Sam burst into the CEO's office with great energy. Sarah was even more surprised at Sam's entrance, and the sales director, Mr. Pendragon, looked confused. Mr. Pendragon, you're fully aware of what's going on? I asked, but he just shook his head. When I glanced at Sam, he placed several documents and a photo on the table. The moment Mr. Pendragon saw the photo, his face turned deathly pale. Only Sarah, sitting beside him, seemed unable to figure out the conversation. Actually, this girl is my daughter. She's been a victim of stalking for a while, and I hired my pete-eyed friend to investigate. You're the stalker, aren't you? I sharply eyed Mr. Pendragon, who started trembling and nodded slightly. You? That's a lie, right? Maybe she misled you or something. Sarah, in disbelief, accused Lena as if she were at fault. Due to my extreme anger, I was about to lose control and utter inappropriate words. Instead, I let Sam explain the investigation results. When Sam handed me the final report, I recognized the stalker as our employee. Of course, I can recognize someone in the position of the director in the company. What I know about him is that he is a diligent and serious man at the office. That's why the report was very shocking. After Sam finished explaining to Sarah, I addressed Mr. Pendragon. Now your dismissal is final and executory due to valid reasons. It's not just that the matter involves my daughter. The company cannot employ anyone who engages in such an immoral act. Do you understand, Mr. Pendragon? Without a word to say, Mr. Pendragon just nodded quietly. Of course, this matter with my daughter is a serious crime. Appropriate actions will be taken, so please understand. Thinking the incident would be reported to the police, he pleaded, please, anything but that. But recalling Lena's tear-streaked face, I retorted emotionally, do you have any idea of the depth of fear you have brought to my daughter? If you have even the slightest understanding, accept your punishment. At this time, Mr. Pendragon hung his head in defeat. I thought it was all over, but then Sarah suddenly said to her husband, I'm divorcing a stalker like you. Get out of here right now. Just as she said this, Sarah approached me with a sly smile. I'm sorry about everything before, but in return, I'll be your wife. Aren't you happy to have a beautiful woman like me? Incredibly, she started making advances toward me right in front of her husband. Disgusted by Sarah's behavior, I informed her that I was already married with children. Unfazed, she began to talk nonsensically about being a second wife. As I wondered what to do, Sam suddenly burst out laughing. What's so funny? Do you have a problem? Sarah snapped at Sam. You can't be talking about a second wife in front of his legal wife, right? If he cheats on her and gets divorced, he'll lose his position as CEO, Sam joked. At this, Sarah exclaimed in surprise, What? Indeed, my wife Emily is the daughter of the former president. When I was 25, he suddenly suggested, Michael, if you don't have anyone in mind, would you like to meet my daughter? I'd initially declined because I had no confidence in myself, though he insisted. However, we hit it off instantly, leading to a quick courtship and marriage. Thus, Emily is the president's daughter, making her and Sam cousins. Realizing this, Sarah turned pale, muttering, This can't be happening. What should I do? I guess you were hoping to get close to me to pay off the debts you made, right? Too bad. As I sarcastically addressed Sarah, she showed a look of shock. While investigating Lena's stalker, we discovered Sarah was the wife and got a hunch something was off with her too. Sam suggested, This smells fishy. Give me some time to look into the wife as well. The investigation revealed that Sarah had accumulated debts in the hundreds of thousands of dollars from frequenting high-end bars. Currently, the debts have been paid with her husband's money. She likely turned her attention to me for financial rescue after she divorced. Hey, debts from a high-end bar. What's that about? It's not about that now. The wife and husband started arguing in front of us. Please discuss this at home. Regarding my daughter's case, we'll consult with the professionals and contact you later. Eager to get them out of my office, I opened the door and asked them to leave. However, they just mumbled incoherently, showing no intention of leaving. If you won't leave, I'll call the police. With my firm statement, they scattered out of the room like startled spiders. Afterward, my lawyer amicably settled Lena's stalking case with the payment of moral damages. However, I made it clear that if any further stalking occurred, we go straight to the police, no questions asked. Regarding the Pendragon couple, I heard they ended up divorcing. As for Mr. Pendragon, having been fired, he struggled to find decent employment and now juggles several part-time jobs to pay off the living expenses and the settlement debt. Meanwhile, Sarah believed she could rely on her parents after the divorce, but once they learned of the incident, they disowned her. Continuing her high-end bar visits, her debts only grew. Now she's working in a job that leverages her looks. Considering her age, it's likely going to be difficult for Sarah to lead a decent life from now on. However, as it's the result of her own actions, I do hope she manages to persevere. As for me, I continue to dedicate myself to work as usual. Lena, who had been afraid to go outside, has finally regained her spirits and started attending university with enthusiasm. She also began working part-time at a new store, and it seems she's found her calling. One day, she suddenly declared, "After I graduate from university, I'm going to work at Dad's company." I've never felt so motivated and fulfilled by a job before. The idea of working with my daughter is delightful, but there are still 2 years until she graduates. If Lena still feels the same way, then I think it would be wonderful to work together.